The simulation didn't crash, it just stopped, because it realized it didn't know enough to continue. They asked humanity to design a perfect world. The request was logged as a fatal error. The simulations didn't crash, they simply stopped responding. No errors, no alerts, no failure codes, just silence. The Architect Council of the Concordance had never seen that before. Their systems predicted stellar collapse centuries in advance. They mapped ecological failure before it began. They simulated civilizations so accurately that wars were often prevented by proving they would fail before the first weapon fired. They did not miss things. So when the planetary model froze mid-calculation, every delegate in the chamber leaned forward at once. "Rerun the scenario," said High Architect Saloon. The model restarted. Again, it halted, right at the same point. A single annotation blinked on the display. Greater than, assumption invalid. The request that started it all. 3 cycles earlier, the Concordance had approved a controlled experiment. Humanity, recently admitted, cautiously observed, had made a modest proposal. "If you want systems that don't collapse," the human representative had said, "you should let us design one from scratch." Laughter followed, politely restrained, professionally dismissive. Humans were adaptable, yes, everyone knew that. But adaptability was not the same as foresight. The Concordance specialized in foresight. Still, curiosity won. A blank planet was selected. Stable orbit, neutral biosphere, no native sentience. A perfect candidate. The task was simple. Design a civilization optimized for long-term stability. No war, no collapse, no catastrophic failure. Humans were given full access to modeling tools, but no authority to implement. They were designers only. Observers watched closely. The first warning was ignored. The humans did not begin with cities. They began with evacuation routes. "This planet is empty," Saloon noted. "There is nothing to evacuate." The human lead designer, Mara Chen, nodded. Exactly. She highlighted vast swaths of terrain and labeled them unoccupied, unbuildable, deliberately wasted. The council murmured. Waste was inefficiency. Inefficiency was instability. "You're reducing usable land by 32%, Saloon said sharply. "Yes," Mara replied. "That's the buffer." They built the infrastructure backwards. Instead of power plants, humans designed manual overrides. Instead of centralized control, they mapped failure zones. Instead of optimizing logistics, they deliberately introduced redundant bottlenecks. One delegate could no longer remain silent. "This world will underperform from day one," they snapped. "You're designing weakness into it." Mara smiled faintly. "No," she said. "We're designing honesty." The simulation advanced anyway. Population growth began, cities formed, trade routes stabilized. For the first time, critics relaxed. "See," Saloon said, "their inefficiencies are being corrected by natural optimization." Mara didn't respond. She was watching the stress indicators. Then the first crisis was introduced. A minor one, a solar fluctuation. Nothing catastrophic, something any Concordance world had endured 1,000 times. The model adjusted, and then it diverged. Not dramatically, subtly. Humans rerouted resources early, too early, some thought. They shut down profitable sectors. They evacuated areas that were still safe. The council objected. "You are overreacting," Saloon said. Mara folded her arms. "No," she replied. "We're reacting while choice still exists." The crisis passed. Damage was minimal, but something strange happened. The planet did not return to its original efficiency. It became slower. Margins widened. Stockpiles grew. Growth declined. Your system is stagnating, Saloon accused. You're sacrificing progress. Mara nodded. Yes. The second crisis was not scheduled. That was when the simulation froze, because the humans had added something the Council had not requested. A line buried deep in the system assumptions. Greater than, failure will occur without warning. The Concordance models could not process it. Their simulations relied on known probabilities. Unknown failure invalidated prediction. The system stalled. Remove the variable, Saloon ordered. Mara shook her head. Then the world collapses later, she said. Spectacularly. You don't know that. Mara met his gaze. Yes, she said quietly. We do. The question no one wanted to ask. A junior analyst finally voiced it. If this world is so inefficient, they asked, why hasn't it failed yet? Mara tapped the display. Because it's not trying to win, she said. It's trying to survive being wrong. The Concordance tried a control model. Same planet, same conditions, designed by the Council, optimized, elegant, perfectly balanced. The first crisis passed smoothly. The second strained it. The third, an unlikely compound event, shattered it. The collapse was fast, total. The room went silent. The difference. The human world didn't prevent collapse. It absorbed it. It bent. It lost efficiency. It accepted damage, and it kept going. The final realization. Saloon stared at the frozen simulation, the human-designed one still running. You didn't design a perfect world, he said slowly. Mara nodded. No, she agreed. We designed a dishonest one that learned to tell the truth. The fatal error. The system finally updated. The frozen annotation changed. Greater than. Error. Perfection assumes knowledge. Knowledge is incomplete. The Concordance had no answer for that. Epilogue. As the Council adjourned, Saloon recorded a private note. We asked humanity to build a world that would never fail. Instead, they showed us why ours inevitably will. And beneath it, we should never have let them see our assumptions. The Concordance did not announce the decision publicly. They never did when pride was involved. Instead, the directive was issued quietly, buried under procedural language and optimization mandates. Human-inspired resilience framework, limited adoption trial. Limited, controlled, safe, or so they believed. The first world chosen was a success story, Keth Prime, a model civilization, stable governance, efficient logistics, near zero internal conflict. Predictive models accurate within 0.3%. If any world could integrate human inefficiency safely, it was Keth Prime. The architects assured themselves of that repeatedly. They copied the structure, not the philosophy. Evacuation corridors were added, redundant power grids installed, manual overrides layered atop automation. Deliberate waste zones designated across urban centers. On paper, the design matched the human model almost perfectly. The simulations approved it. Implementation began. The first complaints were ignored. Efficiency dropped immediately. Resource throughput slowed. Predictive accuracy declined. Keth Prime's administrators protested. These systems contradict optimization principles, they argued. The Council overruled them. Short-term inefficiency is the price of long-term stability, Saloon declared. Mara Chen watched the data feed from Earth. Her expression never changed. The first crisis was trivial. A regional energy fluctuation, normally resolved in minutes. Under the new system, response protocols conflicted. Automation deferred to manual oversight. Manual oversight waited for automation confirmation. Nothing catastrophic happened, but nothing resolved quickly either. Downtime increased. Public confidence dipped. The second crisis was worse. A logistics delay compounded with a communications outage. Redundancies activated. all of them. Instead of absorbing the shock, the system hesitated. Too many fallback paths, too many options, too much uncertainty. Human systems thrived on uncertainty. Keth Prime's did not. The third crisis should have been impossible. Two unrelated failures occurred simultaneously, statistically negligible. The concordance models had never prepared for coincidence. Human models assumed it as default. Keth Prime's infrastructure stalled, not collapsed, stalled. Production froze, transport halted, decision trees looped endlessly. Citizens panicked. Why isn't it working? Saloon demanded answers. Architects reviewed the implementation line by line. Everything matched the human design. Everything, except one thing. They had removed the loss. In the human model, systems failed. Entire sectors were sacrificed. Resources were abandoned deliberately. Keth Prime had refused to do that. Loss was unacceptable. Every failure had to be corrected. Every inefficiency recovered. Every drop of output preserved. They had copied the buffers, but not the willingness to let things die. The human advisory team was finally consulted. Mara Chen reviewed the logs in silence. Then she asked one question. What was the first thing you shut down? The room was quiet. We didn't, Saloon admitted. We tried to stabilize everything. Mara nodded slowly. There it is. The lesson no one wanted. You can't half-build our systems, she said. They only work if you accept loss early. That's barbaric, an architect snapped. Civilizations exist to preserve themselves. Mara met their gaze. No, she said. They exist to preserve options. Keth Prime reached the point of no return. By the time emergency authority was granted, it was too late. Not because damage was extreme, but because trust was gone. Citizens stopped believing recovery would happen. Manual overrides were ignored. Evacuation routes clogged. Systems designed to bend under stress were now rigid with fear. The collapse was slow, painfully slow. The worst kind. Infrastructure degraded unevenly. No single disaster, no dramatic failure, just attrition. Keth Prime lost 19% of its population before stability returned. That alone made it one of the worst managed crises in Concordance history. The report was classified immediately. The summary line was devastating. Human resilience architecture cannot be adopted without cultural transformation. And beneath it, in smaller text, partial implementation increases failure probability. The realization spread quietly. Other worlds halted their trials. Too late. Several had already begun implementation. Several were already experiencing unexpected instability. The Concordance had unleashed a doctrine it could not control. Saloon's private admission. He recorded it late into the cycle. We believed we could take human results without human thinking. We were wrong. Their systems are not designs. They are confessions. The question that ended the session. A junior delegate asked it softly. If we can't copy them, and we can't outpredict them, what happens when they apply their systems to us intentionally? No one answered, because they already knew. A final message arrived from Earth, unprompted, unscheduled. We're noticing some instability in your pilot worlds. If you'd like, we can help implement the full framework next time. Fair warning, it involves choosing what you're willing to lose. The Concordance did not respond, because agreeing meant admitting something unthinkable. That human survival was not a technique. It was a mindset the galaxy might not survive adopting. The world was called Aurelian. It had never mattered before. a mid-tier industrial hub, politically neutral, strategically unremarkable. Its population curves were stable, its resource flow predictable, its future already calculated centuries in advance. That was why it was chosen. If humans failed here, the experiment could be buried. If they succeeded, nothing would ever be the same. Aurelian was dying correctly. That was the problem. Every metric said the collapse was manageable. Atmospheric processors degrading at 3.2% annually, seismic instability within acceptable margins, agricultural yield fluctuating but recoverable. No single catastrophe. Just enough overlapping stress to grind a civilization into dust over decades. The Concordance models predicted a 67% population loss over 70 cycles. Slow, orderly, civilized. The Concordance had one question. Not public, not recorded, not dignified. Can humans stop this without breaking everything else? They did not ask for advice. They asked for control. The human delegation arrived without ceremony. No fleet, no spectacle. 3 ships, one of them civilian. Mara Chen stepped onto Aurelian's capital platform and did not look impressed. Her first words were not reassurance. They were a demand. Show me what you're refusing to shut down. The lie of preservation. Aurelian's governors spoke for hours. They listed programs, traditions, districts, populations. Everything was essential. Everything was too important to lose. Mara listened. Then she stood. You're already dead, she said calmly. You just haven't accepted it yet. Outrage followed. Threats. Accusations. The Concordance observers remained silent. They had seen this pattern before, on Keth Prime, right before it broke. Humans didn't start with technology. They started with maps. Not political ones, not economic. Risk maps. They overlaid infrastructure with psychology, supply chains with morale, population density with panic velocity. The result was horrifying. Entire regions glowed red. The First Order shocked everyone. Mara issued it publicly. Shut down the southern arc completely. Gasps filled the chamber. That arc housed 22% of the population, 31% of energy generation, 2 cultural heritage megastructures. It was unthinkable. Unacceptable. Suicidal. You'll kill them, the governor said. Mara nodded. Yes. Silence fell. No justification followed. No moral framing. Just acceptance. The Concordance intervened. Emergency authority clauses were invoked. Ethical councils assembled. Predictive models screamed warnings. Human observers were ordered to pause. Mara didn't argue. She simply asked one question. How many die if you do nothing? No one answered, because the number was larger. The shutdown began anyway. Not by force, by abandonment. Power rerouted. Transit cut. Emergency beacons left active, but no rescues scheduled. Aurelian's southern arc went dark. Riots followed. Then flight. Then silence. Something changed immediately. The system stabilized. Not recovered. Stabilized. Load pressures dropped. Energy fluctuations flattened. Agricultural systems stopped degrading. The planet exhaled. Humans didn't celebrate. They escalated. Phase 2 was worse. Mara authorized population triage, not by worth, by survivability. Entire skill classes were prioritized. Others weren't. No appeals, no exceptions. When a Concordance ethicist protested, a human officer replied, "You don't understand. We're not choosing who deserves to live. We're choosing who can carry a future." The numbers became uncomfortable. Aurelian's population fell sharply, then stopped falling, then, impossibly, rebounded. Earth rates rose in surviving zones. Psychological metrics improved. People stopped waiting for rescue. They adapted. The Concordance realized the truth too late. Human systems weren't resilient because of redundancy. They were resilient because of ruthlessness early. Humans did not fear collapse. They feared prolonged decay. The final test came unexpectedly. Aurelian's core processor, ancient, irreplaceable, destabilized. Every model demanded immediate shutdown. It would kill millions. Mara didn't hesitate. "Let it run," she said. Architects panicked. "That violates every safety protocol." Mara looked tired. "It's already dead," she replied. "We're just deciding how loud it screams." The core failed violently, but in isolation. Firewalls held. Sacrifice zones absorbed the blast. Aurelion survived. Damaged, scarred, alive. The Concordance session was emergency closed. The vote was unanimous. Human-led crisis governance is effective and unacceptable. A contradiction. They needed humans. They feared them. The question that ended the era. A junior observer asked it quietly. If humans can save worlds by choosing what to lose, what happens when they decide we are the loss? No one answered, because no one knew. Mara's final report. It contained one sentence. "You don't need us to save you. You need us when you're ready to stop lying to yourselves." Months later, Earth received a classified request. A civilization on the edge. No simulations, no oversight. Just one line. "We're ready. Tell us what to shut down first." Human Command approved the mission in silence. Because this time, the galaxy wasn't asking for help. It was asking for judgment. The request did not come through diplomatic channels. There was no council session, no observers, no ethical review. It arrived as a priority survival transmission, stripped of ceremony and pride. One line, encoded in emergency human-readable format, greater than, "We are ready. Tell us what to shut down first." It came from Taraxis, a core world, one of the Concordance's founders. Taraxis was not supposed to fail. It had written half the galaxy's laws. Its philosophers defined civilized response. Its models trained the models of others. If Taraxis was asking humans for judgment, then the galaxy was already past the point of denial. Earth did not respond immediately. That alone caused panic. For the first time since humans had entered galactic affairs, they hesitated. Not because the decision was hard, because the answer was obvious and unacceptable. When the human fleet arrived, it did not land. It stayed in high orbit. That was mistake number one. Mara Chen stood before the Planetary Council via projection. Her face looked older, not tired, resolved. "Before we begin," she said, "you need to understand something. This process only works if you accept the outcome before we start." The Taraxian Council agreed instantly. They would have agreed to anything. That was mistake number two. The truth about Taraxis. Humans didn't start with infrastructure. They started with history. Every compromise, every postponed reform, every system that should have ended centuries ago, but hadn't. Taraxis wasn't collapsing. It was overdue. The red zones covered almost everything. Humans marked entire continental governance blocks as non-viable. Educational cores, obsolete. Cultural preservation networks, unsustainable. Population density, catastrophic under stress. The Taraxians protested. "These are who we are." Mara nodded. "That's the problem."
The question humans always ask last came first. This time, what are you willing to become without? Silence, then fear. The first recommendation was a death sentence. Mara delivered it without emphasis. Shut down the Central Continuity Archive. That archive contained Taraxis's legal memory, historical precedent engines, cultural identity matrices. Without it, Taraxis would forget itself, the Council recoiled. That would erase us. Mara corrected them. No, it would free whoever comes next. The Concordance tried to intervene. They had learned this pattern, too late. Emergency vetoes were prepared, human authority clauses debated. Mara cut through it all. "This is where we stop," she said. "Stop?" "Yes." She looked directly into the council chamber. "We're not taking this mission." The first human refusal shock rippled across the network. "You can save us," the Tyraxian speaker insisted. "Yes," Mara replied. "We can." "Then why?" "Because you won't survive being saved." The explanation. No one wanted. You want resilience without loss, change without grief, survival without identity death. That's not survival. That's preservation of a corpse. The council erupted, accusations, threats, desperation. Mara waited, then delivered the final blow. "You're not asking us to choose what to lose. You're asking us to choose for you, and that means when it hurts, you'll blame us. That breaks the system." The offer was withdrawn. Human ships powered down. Orbit positions relaxed. No preparation, no contingency plans, just distance. Panic followed immediately. If humans said no to Taraxis, they could say no to anyone. The Concordance fractured overnight. Emergency councils formed. Petitions flooded Earth. Worlds begged. Some threatened. Humans did not respond. Tyraxis tried. Anyway, they attempted partial implementation, selective shutdowns, controlled losses. It failed badly. Without conviction, sacrifice became chaos. Riots spread, systems stalled, history repeated itself. The end of Tyraxis was quiet, not dramatic, not explosive. The lights dimmed over decades, population declined. The name faded from relevance, not extinct, just irrelevant. The galaxy learned the final rule. Humans were not saviors, they were mirrors. They did not bring solutions, they forced civilizations to confront the truth. Greater than, if you cannot choose what to let die, you will lose everything by default. Mara's last recorded statement. She resigned weeks later. Her final message was archived on Earth alone. "We thought survival was about strength. It isn't. It's about honesty. And some civilizations would rather die than tell the truth about themselves." Years later, a new message arrived from a minor world, unknown, unimportant, desperate. It contained only 3 words, greater than, "We chose already." Human command approved the mission immediately, because that was the difference.